Moving on now, weedy plant encroachment is a process that causes a state transition from one type of ecosystem to another. The Great Plains climate supports both grassland and woodland ecosystems. Which of these ecosystems dominates and thrives has historically been dependent on fire vegetation feedbacks. At this year's Gudmundsen Sandhills Laboratory Open House, we got an up-close look at some methods for eastern red cedar mitigation that could be helpful for producers across the state. Market Journal's Mike Straub has this story.
More and more grasslands in Nebraska are disappearing due to woody encroachment. Reducing exposure to seed sources is a big step in decreasing the vulnerability of our grasslands.
Our grassland exposure to seed source and seed dispersal has changed so dramatically over the last century, and what impact that's had on grassland risk to encroachment. And so what we're actually starting to encourage as new best management practices is using management to reduce exposure to the problem. So if we can reduce exposure to seed sources and manage grassland sensitivity so that our grasslands aren't as vulnerable to encroachment.
Annual rangeland production losses due to woody encroachment can be hard to fathom.
We now have the data to track rangeland production losses annually. And what we see in Nebraska in 2019 is 419,000 tons of rangeland production were lost to woody plant encroachment.
If you break down the numbers, over 70,000 cows could be fed from the amount of rangeland being lost on an annual basis.
Yeah, it's difficult to understand how much 419,000 tons of production is. And so we've actually broken it down into round bales. And it's just about 700,000 1,200-pound round bales is how much production we've lost due to woody encroachment in 2019. And so if we took those round bales and we laid them out side by side, that would cover more than the distance from Kansas City to Denver. As another comparison, that's enough forage to support just under 70,000 cows for a year.
Increase in tree cover is becoming unmanageable in our grassland prairies. To reach the scale of the problem, upping the scale of management is necessary.
So we've looked at trends, and what we see at large scales like the state or even more ecoregion specific is we're seeing increases in tree cover. Some areas in the western part of the state are experiencing more early trends. Cover is still low, increasing slowly. While in areas in the east or tallgrass prairie, we're seeing much more steady and consistent losses in our grasslands. Unfortunately, at large scales, we have almost no evidence of being able to halt and reverse those trends. So I'll point to the Les Canyons. Once we've seen trends of encroachment, they're the only region that's been able to stabilize that trend, and they've been able to do it using prescribed fire throughout the community, where they've actually been able to scale up management to account for the scale of the problem.
Two main factors are causing vulnerabilities to our grasslands. Increasing one and decreasing the other might lead to a solution.
Fire has historically limited trees in the Great Plains. Eastern red cedar is an extremely fire-sensitive species. We've largely removed fire from our grasslands. That's made them more vulnerable to red cedar. In addition, we've introduced seed sources through tree planting programs throughout the Great Plains, including in Nebraska. And so those two factors have really contributed to trends of encroachment. The earlier you can act, the better. There's things you can do before you have a problem. Once you have a problem, the earlier you act, the more economically effective or efficient control is going to be. So I guess that would be my message is don't wait to act, and act early.
To save grassland prairies from being overcome by trees, acting early and acting fast is the best method. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Mike Straub.